Hello, and welcome to
Papi Approves Movies.
My name is Papi.
And I'm Natalie.
In our podcast, we will review and critique my favorite PG-13 movies.
Movies that I wasn't allowed to watch until I turned 13.
Every Sunday, Natalie and I will watch a new PG-13 movie.
And I'll see if Papi's movies live up to the hype.
Which, of course, they will.
Today we're going to be watching The Mask of Zorro.
Before we begin, there will be spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie and don't want it to be spoiled,
press pause and come back when you're finished. Now, Papi, tell me the deets on this movie.
Okay, The Mask of Zorro came out in 1998. It was directed by Martin Campbell. He has directed a few James Bond movies, one of which we will see in the next few weeks.
Which one is that?
It's called Casino. He's actually done two of them, Casino Royale and Skyfall. But we're going to watch the first one with the new James Bond, Daniel Craig, which is Casino Royale.
Okay.
The movie was written by Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio, based on the character El Zorro, written by Johnston McCulley in 1919. The main stars are Antonio Banderas, Catherine Zeta-Jones, and Anthony Hopkins. Fun facts: Zorro has appeared in everything from novels, comics, movies, TV shows, stage shows, radio shows, and even video games. Many think he's the inspiration for Batman and the superheroes in general. There's a direct sequel to this movie called The Legend of Zorro, which came out in 2005. Growing up, I was a huge fan of Zorro. As a Latino, he was like our hero for our people. My whole family used to watch his old movies, and I would slash Z's on everything when I was little. So what do you think, Nat?
I liked it a lot. It was a lot of fun. I give it a 4.5-star review.
What? I'm surprised. I didn't think you were going to like it so much.
It was a lot of fun, and I thought there was a lot of silly parts, too. It wasn't all, serious and boring.
That's true. I think there was a lot of funny parts and a lot of kind of action, goofy parts, a little bit silly parts. It's true.
Why don't we get into the recap?
Okay, let's begin. The movie starts in California in 1821, on the eve of the Spanish leaving California during the Mexican independence. The outgoing Spanish governor, Don Rafael, is not leaving quietly. He's having a public execution of farmers to draw out El Zorro, who's a vigilante that helps the people. Zorro does come out, but he makes a fool of him and his soldiers. We meet two young boys who are huge fans of El Zorro and help him during the escapade. As Zorro leaves, he gives the medallion to one of the boys and leaves as the people cheers.
I feel bad that only one of the kids got, the necklace. If I was the other kid, I'd be so jealous.
I know, that's true. We'll find out a little bit more about them later, but it never did, it didn't go between them. One of them always kept it. You're right.
And he also thanked the kids. I still don't get what they did. He was just thank you guys, but they just sat there.
No, they let go of something that was hanging and landed on soldiers that were about to attack El Zorro.
Oh, I
actually helped them.
I didn't get it.
Yeah. We find El Zorro is Don Diego de la Vega. We'll call him Don Diego from now on. A rich landowner. Don Diego is telling the story to his baby daughter about his escapade, while his wife Esperanza looks on. He admits he is too old to continue being Zorro and says he is now retired because the Spanish are leaving. Shortly after, Don Rafael comes in and tries to arrest Don Diego. A fight ensues and Esperanza is killed. Don Rafael takes Elena, which is his daughter, and leaves for Spain, and he leaves Don Diego in jail to rot.
He's all I'm sorry to Esperanza. He's I'm sorry you couldn't love me. But, do you never really cared? Because you tried to murder her husband, accidentally murdered her, and kidnapped her child, so I don't know if that's really a sign of love, and, you missed out. You just killed everyone, and gave a sad life to this baby.
I think it's a twofold, so I think maybe he was in love with her, but she chose Don Diego instead. Mm-hmm. And then, so he hates Don Diego, A. And then B, when he figures out that he's El Zorro, then he's kind of doubly angry at him. So I think that's what happened. True. All right, we have a time jump of 20 years, and we see the same boys, now men, obviously, are famous bandits, Joaquin and Alejandro Murrieta. Joaquin still has the medallion that El Zorro gave him. They make a fool of some soldiers and steal a strongbox. But unfortunately, some backup soldiers led by Captain Love come and corner Joaquin, and he forces Alejandro to escape.
What a name, Captain Love.
Captain Love, right? He's like the evil bad guy, right? Anyway, so Joaquin forces Alejandro to escape. Joaquin kills himself before Captain Love gets to, and Captain Love is angry with him, takes his head off, cuts his head off, decapitates him, and Alejandro leaves running into the field, but he watches the whole thing.
I was like scared for a bit because he wasn't taking the necklace, and I was like, isn't the necklace gonna be a big thing? I thought it was gonna be like really important or in some way, but he wasn't. Like, he didn't get the necklace at first from his sibling or whatever, and I was like, is no one gonna take the necklace?
Well, he saw the soldiers were putting him in a grave, so they were digging a hole to put Joaquin in. So I think he was just waiting for them to leave. Yeah, then he went back to the grave and found his medallion on the floor. And he picked it up and he took it with him. That's kind of sad because, well, that's his best friend, his brother, that dies. But then he takes his medallion. Mm-hmm. Don Rafael is back. So 20 years later, he's coming back from Spain. And he's looking for Don Diego in prison. He doesn't recognize him, even though he is in there, and believes him to be dead. That night, Don Diego escapes and later meets a drunk Alejandro in a bar.
It shows him when he's, like, escaping. It shows him trying to put, like, some sort of key in his shoe. I think maybe that was when it was. And I was like, it's never gonna fit, bro. Like, what are you doing? It's not going to fit in your shoe.
Yeah, I did see that. He escapes as pretending to be a dead person, and he's actually buried into a shallow grave. Mm-hmm. You know, we had two graves kind of back to back, Joaquin's and then now on Don Diego's, but he was able to get himself out because he wasn't dead, even though the soldiers thought he was. Anyway, so Alejandro's in a bar drinking his sorrows away because his brother's just killed, and he tries to hawk his brother's medallions for more whiskey. When Alejandro does that, Don Diego kind of stops him and tells him that he shouldn't do that medallion is very valuable. Alejandro just kind of disregards him and sees Captain Love and runs after him to try to avenge his brother's death.
He's like trying to fight you, even though he's like all wobbly because he's super drunk.
And he's super drunk, yeah.
Like it seems like a bad idea if you can't even walk straight. But I guess that's part of why he's drunk. He's confused and wants to fight. And
he was angry, so upset. And then Don Diego stops him, so he doesn't allow him to go because he knows that what's going to happen is Captain Love will kill him. Alejandro doesn't care. He fights Don Diego. Don Diego, his old man, beats him up hardcore, makes a fool out of him, and eventually he gives up. And Don Diego takes him to his secret lair.
Okay, you're just inviting a drunk stranger in the streets. That sounds responsible.
I think the one reason that he did so was because he had the medallion, which proved that this person was courageous at one point, even though he actually didn't earn the medallion. His brother did, right?
Yeah.
But he and his brother saving El Zorro 20 years back.
He would have been the jealous child I would have been. Sad that I didn't get the medallion.
You would have stole your sister's medallion? Is that what you would have done?
No, I would have just sadly admired it.
You would have sadly admired it from afar?
Uh-huh.
Well, hope your sister doesn't have to be decapitated so you can take the medallion or anything like that. That's kind of dark, you know. Don Diego takes Alejandro into the lair of the fox and then starts to train him to be the next Zorro. So right now, Alejandro is all anger, terrible swordsmanship, just an angry guy. And now Don Diego's going to teach him how to be an awesome sword-fighting parkour master, El Zorro.
I like the part where he's like, do you know how to use this? And he's holding a sword. And he's like, yeah, the pointy part goes into your opponent. And Zorro just gives a look that's like, oh my god, what have I done?
Yeah, like, who is this knucklehead? So a couple of weeks pass, and Alejandro goes into the city and sees a horse he really wants. That night, he dons a mask without Don Diego's permission. And goes on a mission to steal the horse. A great battle ensues and he escapes by the skin of his teeth. He meets Elena and falls in love immediately. She also seems smitten with him, kind of like a bad boy kind of thing, you know, with a mask.
Yeah, especially since she's all like, her character is that she's the rebellious child, so she has to go with someone that her dad would be angry about.
Maybe, that's true. She's not a little girl though, she's, you know, a grown woman, but...
Yeah, that's true.
As he escapes, he goes into a church for sanctuary and barely escapes before Captain Love finds him. But not before Elena confesses that she likes him, Alejandro, when she thinks that the person she was confessing to was the priest. Alejandro, acting as the priest, tells her to follow her heart.
Of course he did.
That's a tough one right there, huh? He was pretending to be a priest. That's a dirty move on his part.
Yeah, that was rude, especially since it's like that whole thing is like it's supposed to be all like quiet and he can't share it with anyone, and yet he's faking being the priest.
And Alejandro comes home so proud of himself with his cool horse and gets chewed out by Don Diego. He tells him that El Zorro is a servant of the people, not a thief and a clown, and Alejandro wants to quit. But Don Diego tells him he needs him to go undercover as a don or a nobleman to figure out Don Rafael's plan.
Also, like, it was cool and all, you got your horse, but that horse hates you. He even hated you while you were, like, escaping. That's why he got in that huge battle, because the horse was going crazy. He's like, you are. No, not you.
That's true. He whistled the horse over, and then he jumped off the roof to land on the horse.
Uh-huh.
And then the horse moved out of the way just at the last second.
Yeah, the only thing, he was, like, trying to call a bunch of names, and then he's like, hey, stupid! And then the horse was like, ugh. Like, he was hearing him the whole time. He was just trying to ignore him, but he got mad when he called him stupid.
You know, I want to talk to you about the word don and the names of the people, but I will talk at the end. I learned something new I didn't know about. It's just something that we've always been using growing up. That's what we call our elders, don or doña. And I found out where it's from, and I'll bring it up a little later. But it was really interesting. I didn't know that. So anyways, he's going to go undercover, find out Don Rafael's plan. The next scene, Alejandro is dressed fancy and acts like a don from the Spanish court. And this is a really funny part because your sister probably hated this part because he got his haircut. In the beginning, Alejandro had this beautiful, curly, wild, awesome hair.
Really long, too.
And your sister loves his curly hair, but then he had a beard, too. And then now he has like a real fine mustache, and he has a clean haircut, and he looks like a gentleman now. And your sister was like, oh, where's his curls? The curls are gone. Don Diego acts like Bernardo, his lowly servant. When they both see Elena, they are both enamored. Different reasons, obviously. Alejandro is in love with her as a boy loves a girl. Don Diego's in love with her as a dad would love his daughter.
Yeah, that's difficult.
Alejandro fools Don Rafael to thinking he's one of the really important people, so he invites him to sit at the main table, where he acts like a total jerk to sell his undercover persona, always throwing jabs at Captain Love whenever he can. He was always kind of calling him, like low class, putting him down.
I have to also mention in this, like, scene where it's, like, all the fancy people and that, Elena there, she looks like, her face looks, we don't usually talk about, like, wardrobe and makeup, but here, her makeup looks, like, really cakey and, like, it looks like she's really, like, wearing a lot of makeup. She looks fine in all the other scenes, but here I know she looks like she's wearing a lot of makeup.
That's funny. I wonder if it's because, all these noblemen, she had to dress up or put up more makeup than she usually does.
I noticed that a little. I was like, oh, why is she wearing so much makeup? She looked prettier without all the, like, stuff all over.
It's true. Captain Love takes Elena out to dance, and Alejandro is jealous and preoccupied and doesn't see that Don Rafael and his inner circle are leaving to talk about the plan.
Which was his one job. He had one job. Don't let them leave the table without him. And he was already starting to fail.
He was getting jealous. He saw Captain Love make a move on his girl that he likes, and he got all jealous. So Alejandro cuts in on Captain Love and dances a sexy flamenco with Elena to stop Don Rafael from leaving.
It's so convenient that she can dance this type of style of dance perfectly and dramatically.
It's funny because in most movies, so you have these formal dances, right? Uh-huh. And then people are pretty good at one dance or another. But for these kind of dances, you would need choreography. You need to know each other. But they know exactly what each other's going to do. And
that hurt was a little fake.
But I think that's in every movie where the boy and the girl go on a dance. There's a movie called Scent of a Woman where they dance a tango. Great movie. I think it's rated R though, so a couple more years. Al Pacino does the tango with this one lady, and they are perfectly in sync, like they've known each other and danced with each other all their lives.
I know in, fairy tales, they always have the ballroom, like Cinderella, but that's, custom for them to know, because they're all, royals. They know how to do the ballroom dance. But this is definitely not some sort of, fancy, well-known dance. She's just going crazy.
I wonder if in a deleted scene, Don Diego is teaching Alejandro how to do the flamenco together or something like that.
That would be funny.
Actually, that would be kind of funny. Anyways, it works. Don Rafael comes back and apologizes for Elena's, and I say this in quotation marks, spirited dance. Alejandro is a gentleman, and Don Rafael invites Alejandro to join the inner circle. So he saw his daughter and a guy dancing sexy style, and then he apologizes about his daughter. Right?
He's not all protective over his daughter. He's just like, I'm sorry, bro.
Yeah.
Like, he obviously is, he's leading her. It's not like he's uncomfortable.
Yeah. He did act kind of like, it's okay, she is very spirited. Kind of like to try to sell his, his noblehood or whatever.
Yeah.
I just thought it was funny that he apologized for his daughter. Like, I'm sorry, my daughter is acting that way.
He wasn't even caring. It was sad.
Yeah, it was sad. Don Rafael reveals the plan. He's found a gold mine under the Mexican authorities' nose. With that, he will pay off Mexican leaders with gold, falsely labeled as Spanish, for their support to create the independent Republic of California. The Dons would run it as they see fit, with Don Rafael at the head. The next day, the Dons, with Alejandro, go see the mine that is being run by slave labor. Children are working. We even see the priest from earlier. He's in there as well.
I don't know why that they why he's there. He is it because he was like he had a stowaway and then they just yelled at him?
Yeah, he was trying to hide Zorro.
And then they kind of knew that.
They kind of knew, and I think that's why they punished them, which is kind of crazy. But
yeah.
It looks like people were being disappeared throughout the area, and they were being taken to the mine. Captain Love sees Alejandro struggling and is starting to think that Alejandro is the missing Murrieta brother. Captain Love even tries to trap him later by showing Alejandro his brother's head in a jar. But Alejandro stays cool in
Nasty.
character.
That's disgusting.
And then, of course, the part that I remember and then Mom went crazy about was it's a pickle jar of his brother's head is in it, and Alejandro took a cup and drank some of it, right? Of the liquid. Yeah, kind of disgusting.
No! Disgusting.
It is pretty nasty. Elena meets Don Diego and talks to him, and they bond. She feels that she knows him. And then more suspicion arises when she meets her old nanny in the market and tells her that she is the daughter of Don Diego and Esperanza de la Vega, and that she was born in California and not in Spain, as Don Rafael has lied to her about. That's the one scene I kind of go, okay, this one lady, she was trying to convince Elena that she was not who they think she is, that this guy had kidnapped her a long time ago. She didn't say that. She didn't mention that this person was kidnapped, although that nanny would have known. But more importantly, started to kind of put doubt in her mind that her dad isn't her real dad.
Because I think she knows the name of her mom, and then she was like, oh, it was like your mom, and then this dude, and he's like, how do you know the name of my mom? That is my actual mom's name. I think she probably knew the name of her mom, in quotation marks.
I wonder.
Mom.
Because
so I think that's why she was doubting. It wasn't just because she was like strangers, like, you were kidnapped.
It's true, but yeah, no, but she did say that. Anyways, and also Don Rafael has lied to her, saying that her mom died in childbirth, which we know is not true, that Don Rafael was actually the one who kills her. That night, Don Diego gives Alejandro his mask, and he is now El Zorro.
Dun, dun, dun.
El Zorro goes to Don Rafael's hacienda and steals the map to the mine. He fights both Captain Love and Don Rafael and escapes, but not before he runs into Elena in the stable. Probably a very famous and funny scene. They have a duel, and Elena's really good. She's kicking butt. During the fight, he kisses her, and she gets angry and fights even harder. Then he kisses her again, but this time she seems to like it. He unarms her, takes away her weapon, and is about to leave, but before, he does a bunch of fancy slashes, and her blouse falls off. And then she's in love.
Why?
What'd you think of that scene?
That scene was dumb.
You thought it was dumb? I thought you would think it was funny.
No, it's not funny.
She's not funny. There's an awesome horse chase, and El Zorro gets to the lair. He and Don Diego get into a dispute because Don Diego says he is not going to the mine to help, that his only focus is to win Elena back. Zorro says, fine. And he takes off, and Don Diego goes to Don Rafael's hacienda to go and get Elena.
Did we already pass the point where he gets the map?
Yeah, he got the map when he went just earlier when he went to to the hacienda, and that's right before he fought with Elena in the stable.
Oh, cause my thought there was how he was like on the roof being all quiet and sneaky, and I was thinking like, if I was up there, I would cough or do something so dumb and give myself.
You would get caught.
Yeah, because I would be like, oh God, I'm so sneaky, and then go, and then they'd go, oh, she's up there.
Like some hay, you're like, achoo! And next thing you know, everybody finds you.
That's always what happens in hide and seek. I'm doing so well, and then I start laughing.
Yeah, you're not. I guess you're not very good at hide and seek then.
No.
If you're in the corner cracking up by yourself. Kind of weird too, though, don't you think?
Yeah, because I see them walk by me. I'm like, ha ha, I'm so sneaky.
All right, weirdo. At the hacienda, Don Diego tells Elena the truth while holding Don Rafael at sword point. When she hears the real name, she hears his real name. She connects it to what the nanny said. That and talking about a scent of a flower they used to put in her crib convinces her that Don Diego is her real father. He's in prison, but later she frees him.
The flower, because someone gave her one earlier when there was like the meeting, and she smelled it, and she's like, smells familiar. And then he said the name of that same flower, which was the one on the crib. So she's like, okay, I get it now why it's familiar, because it was on my crib.
And that flower doesn't grow in Spain, right? It only grows there. Off to the mines. Don Rafael is taking all the gold out to pay for his bribe, and he's going to blow up the mine with the slaves to get rid of all the evidence. The workers are put in cages and a fuse is lit. Zorro comes and kicks butt and has a duel with Captain Love. Zorro beats Captain Love, takes his mask off, and slashes an M for Murrieta on his face and kills him. Don Diego shows up with Elena, and Don Diego duels with Don Rafael. Don Diego is shot, and Don Rafael falls to his doom.
Whenever they like fall and die, it's I find it strange because I feel like if you were shot, you just fall over. But they always like fall slowly, and it like takes 2 minutes and stuff. Like I remember in The Fifth Element, there was like the diva, and she fell, and it was like a solid 2 minutes that she was like falling. If you don't get that reference, you can watch our last episode. But it was I always think it's like, I don't know if that's realistic or not, because I'm like, how long does it take for someone to die? Like, wouldn't you just what?
I don't know. I do know that a gunshot isn't so theatrical. Like, she fell down like it was part of a play, right? Like, oh, I think it's a lot more violent and forceful. And so it's not something maybe you want to actually put on TV for people to watch. So I'm not really sure if they... I don't think it's cinematic enough. I don't think you're going to enjoy it.
Oh.
Anyway, so Elena frees the slaves and they escape before the mines explode. Don Diego dies in her arms. Don Diego dies in her arms, but not before telling her how she was just like her mother and giving his blessing for the two to be together, her and Alejandro. Then we see a time in the future where Alejandro and Elena are married, and Alejandro is telling the story of his latest conquest.
Just like from earlier.
Yeah, it's kind of like a callback from earlier. So, and then he's telling his story to his baby, a little boy named Joaquin, which happens to be his brother's name. So he named the baby after his brother.
Oh, I never got that.
Yeah, I know. I didn't get it till later. They kiss and El Zorro lives. The end. I love this movie. It's funny and full of action. Great sword skill and fighting. Antonio Banderas is a totally cool Zorro, and it's a wonderful redemption story.
How many other Zorro movies are there? Because you said this was like a one after, right? Or is it the first?
There's a direct sequel with the same actors, right? With Antonio Banderas and Catherine Zeta-Jones. Obviously, Anthony Hopkins passes away in this one, so he's not in the next one. There's another one just with these two characters, but there have been dozens of movies throughout time. Like I said, there's black and white movies that go back to I think 1920 is what I saw, one of them. They've had a lot of adaptations. Like I said, my family used to watch them.
He's been a really big thing for a while.
TV show, radio show. He's been it for everybody, so he's been pretty popular. All right, here's a couple of questions, Nat. Could this movie still be made today?
Yeah, I think it could definitely be made today. Though there were obviously unnecessary scenes. The one where I thought he said it and you immediately looked to me, and then I got out my notebook, was in the, when they were all talking at the dinner. Elena is talking about about how she thinks Zorro is cool and brave and all of that. And then they're like kind of shutting her down. And then I don't know how to say his name.
Don Rafael?
Uh-huh. He says, what can I say? All women grasp for politics. And that one, I feel like, is very outdated because right now we have a female vice president.
That's true. Very true.
It's like, they're not for politics. And then we have, like, one of the biggest political leaders is a woman currently.
For sure.
So that one definitely aged poorly, I guess.
Okay, I get you there. I get you. Although, here's the tricky thing because when you make a movie like this, it takes place
back in
200 years ago.
Days.
And so this would be common for the people to act at that time when women would be probably disregarded as such. You know, even in the United States at this point, women didn't even have the ability to vote.
I don't think that the person who made it actually was thought that hopefully not. Yeah. I don't think they actually thought, like, women shouldn't be in politics. I think it was just more of the role of the person.
Yeah, sure.
More of. But, you know, it's still kind of sad.
Oh, yeah. Especially talking about your own daughter that way.
Yeah, and she's right there. She's the only woman there. She probably felt uncomfortable.
It's true. There weren't any other women at the table. Huh?
Yeah, so she was just the only one there. She was definitely getting, like, singled out, I'd say.
Okay.
So that was a little sad. In the fight, when they're, like, the Elena and new Zorro are fighting, he makes out with her. Like, was that necessary? No. And then he's about to leave and he cuts off her top. That wasn't necessary either. What was the reason?
For his reason or the movie's reason? Like the movie maker's reason?
Just reason in general. I
think his was to ridicule her or to
make fun of her.
Kind of make fun of her, tease her in a way, but I think it had to, I think he was trying to, I don't know what his intention was. It
was pointless. It really was. I know
if I did that to Mom, she would be super mad at me, right? It wouldn't be like, oh, you rascal. It would be like, I'm going to kill you now. So I don't know what his intentions were. The filmmakers did it for a funny moment.
Yeah.
Although you don't see her naked, unlike,
because her hair is really long.
Right, her hair covers her top, unlike, Lilu from The Fifth Element. But I think it was more for a funny joke. And if I remember properly, I think that scene was in the trailer, like him just, using his sword play to undress her in a way.
And also, like, afterwards, he's, like, leaving. This always annoys me. I feel like people still do this, where they do the... Like, they tisk at you like a dog. I think that's just annoying. Whether she was a woman or not, that's just annoying. It's just like, you're below me.
Oh, okay.
Kind of thing. I thought it was just really annoying.
Who does that?
Alejandro? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I was like, why?
Yeah, what's the point, right? Other than to put some... Was he acting like a don at the time?
No. So
it was out of him. It was
it was during their fight, like after...
Okay, I see it. Oh, yeah, at that point, yeah.
It was annoying.
Yeah.
I thought it was annoying, at least.
Mm-hmm, that's funny. Anything else?
Nope.
Quick question. Does this movie pass the Bechdel test?
It was so close, because there was obviously Elena, but then it will almost pass because there was the nanny. The two of them talked to each other, the nanny and Elena.
Okay.
They're both named characters.
Are they featured characters, though?
But they're still characters, whether or not they're featured.
I think the Bechdel test, and I'll have to look it up again, I think it needs the two female characters to be featured.
Oh, but they were so close, but they were talking about her dad, who is a man.
Yeah, but it wasn't... So I'm going to re-look this up for the Bechdel test, because I think it's more like if the female lead is talking to like her girlfriend, like, hey, this boy is about a boy that she likes, not necessarily her father. But I'll have to look it up. I'm going to do some research to find out the exact truth.
I think that it would pass the Bechdel test, but just for the pure definition of they can't be talking about a man. It doesn't pass by definition. But I'd say it passes in general. But not really, because she was for one scene.
And she's a plot device, right?
Yeah.
To try to... she was no more important than the smell of the flower.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, I don't think it actually passed the Bechdel test, but maybe we can disagree.
It's a little close.
It's a little close. I want to talk to you about one more thing. So I had mentioned it earlier about the word don. So as you know, and as you've seen me, when I call or talk to any older adult in Spanish, we call them don and doña. The way I call your grandma, I call her doña, and when I called your grandpa, don. And I didn't know this, but the word don means de origen noble. So it means from noble origins. So that's actually what the word don means. I never knew that before. I do know that whenever you do get a boyfriend or a husband in the future, he will need to refer to me as Don Papi Chulo. No, just kidding. But yes, Don or Mr. Yes, we're from the school of old, so I would prefer that. But yeah, and then one time in my whole life, just once, just last time we went on vacation in Costa Rica, they called me Don by my first name, and I was like, "Whoa, I feel special."
You have noble origins now.
Noble origins, or they think I'm old. But either one, I still feel special.
We won't talk about that.
So I did feel special by doing that. And then also Don Rafael. Rafael is my middle name and my grandpa's name. So if you wouldn't have called him that, but people would call him Don Rafael, which was my grandpa's name. Isn't that kind of cool?
Did you recognize that as a kid?
No, he passed away before I was born. So I didn't necessarily know. But I do know that's my middle name, and I was named after my grandpa. So you can call me Don Rafael. Your boyfriend or your future husband or fiance can call me Don Rafael, so I can feel cool, okay?
Okay.
All right. Excellent. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Thank you for tuning in to Papi Approved Movies.
If you liked this episode, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on your favorite podcast app.
We usually put out an episode every week. If you want to suggest a movie for us to watch and critique,
email us at papiapprovedmovies@gmail.com.
That's papiapprovedmovies@gmail.com. No spaces, no caps.
We'll try our best to get to your suggestion.
And remember, it has to be PG-13.
Next time, we're watching Edward Scissorhands, so I hope you join us.
I'm Papi.
And I'm Natalie.
See you next time.
Bye!